for the career fair, it was held in one large room at the Prince Conference Center. You would walk in and you could just go from table to table and meet with employers. And if you had maybe not been able to prepare for it before the day of, you would be fine. This time you need to be signing up for those individual one-on-one sessions and group sessions now, so that when that day comes, you have that all scheduled in the books. So that would be one big change, I think, from the past.
Yeah, good point. And handshake being very important for all of this. So everybody, all students should have that takeaway for sure. Sarah, is there anything you want to add just from a E&Y's recruiting process? What's unique this year that students should really be aware of?
Yeah, I think, similar to what Kimberly said, I think we're doing, a lot, obviously virtual, so we can't do things in person. In fact, we did our entire internship this past summer virtual, so that was very unique. But we did kind of redesign that whole process to bring all of our interns together in different and unique ways, where they could still be part of our team, still kind of work one-on-one with a supervisor and that sort of thing. So I know that was certainly a little bit nerve-wracking at first for people going through that for the first time and hoping, gosh, can I still get a job? Is this still gonna, work out for me? So I think, we're all kind of like Kim said, we're all kind of going through this together for the first time. And, it's something I think you should just keep asking questions. I would say be prepared as you kind of go into these interviews. Make sure, you're at least kind of well put together, and you have, your backdrop isn't something with people running in the background and distracting. Just make sure, I think Bridget maybe said at the beginning, you're kind of in a quiet place and can really have that opportunity to engage with the people that you're meeting with.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Jason, I want to get your thoughts, but just a second. I believe Corey Thomas from Herman Miller, have you joined us now?
How you doing?
Hey, Corey. Don't worry, I already explained that it was Jeff's fault for you running a little late.
Thank you for understanding. We used to have the same boss, if folks don't know.
Yeah.
I have the same have his old boss.
Good to see you again. Could you mind just giving just a brief little bio, and then we'll kind of jump back into the panel questions?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I apologize again for running late. Corey Thomas, I'm the corporate controller at Herman Miller. I'll get into a little bit of what my job responsibilities are, but maybe I'll go back in time. And so I graduated undergrad at Michigan State, started in public accounting at Plant Moran. My highlight, or why I became an accountant, is because my mom wanted me to be an engineer and I rebelled. And that is not a joke. That is literally how I became an accountant. So yeah, F you, mom, right? 5 years in public accounting, and I wasn't the maturest person growing up, and so I learned through some lumps. I did an okay job, but wasn't, like I said, the most maturest person. So probably one of the best things that ever happened was not being mature, and then learning some tough lessons along the way and getting some tough love and feedback. And then Sarbanes-Oxley happened, and it was like the Full Employment Act for accountants, and I joined Steelcase and worked on their SOX implementation way back when. And then randomly met someone at a restaurant who happened to be in the controller's office at Whirlpool. And they're like, hey, you should come work here. And I went and interviewed, got a job offer. I didn't take the job. And 4 months later, Whirlpool calls me up and they say, do you want to work on a $4 billion acquisition and want to lead a piece of that acquisition integration plan? So it's interesting because the person I interviewed with at that time is the CFO of Whirlpool today. So if you kind of just think through, like, these chance meetings and occurrence go very far. And I bring that up because that's a positive story. I can share with you 2 or 3 negative stories that you bump into someone and I go, I will never hire this person, period, like unequivocally. So every day is an interview is the one of the messages I do want to leave you with. Worked at Whirlpool, a variety of different roles, internal audit, supply chain finance. For Whirlpool, that meant transportation and warehousing in the U.S., so about $900 million P&L that I had responsibility for, and then about $1 billion full P&L, 7 businesses I had responsibility for, and then making decisions around buying plants, selling plants, Do we put an egg holder in a refrigerator or not? Like, anybody has the egg holder in the refrigerator now? No one does, right? So like I had to talk the marketing people out of, no one keeps the egg holder. Eggs come in their own egg holder. You don't need to pay for one every time you want to sell a refrigerator. So these are the kind of the fun discussions you're having. And then I went back to being an accountant every day. Did SEC reporting, writing the financial statements for Whirlpool, did a lot of technical accounting, bought a couple companies, $1.4 billion, purchase for a European manufacturing company, a $900 million acquisition in China, sold a company a couple of years ago, went through a lot of ups and downs, sold businesses. Along the way, I went to grad school at Michigan, so I'm conflicted about who I am, a Spartan or a Wolverine, and joined Herman Miller when I heard Brad was leaving. So my wife used to sit right outside of Brad's office, so I had like a inside track to get in a job. So like my job here is fully gotten by nepotism, I guess, if my wife is sitting outside the office and I got an inside track there. So I'm sorry, you just asked me for a short bio and I just rambled for like 4 minutes.
No problem. But just to clarify, with that bio, they all know actually that there was a lot more than nepotism that went into your hire, but hey, it doesn't hurt to have an inside track. All right, thanks, Corey. So yeah, we're just talking about kind of the specific recruiting season now and how it might look different. So Jason, I don't know, have you, apologize if you said this, but have you had already kind of interactions with candidates virtually, or maybe if you think back to kind of how interns over the summer, and what sticks out as a good way for a potential candidate to make a good impression virtually that may be different, maybe the same as back in the day when we were all in person, and you know, what kind of to avoid, along with, you know, Sarah's already mentioned some things like the background and whatnot.
Yeah, no, so I think Sarah and Kim both made some really good points. As EY did, our internship in the summer was entirely online as well, and I had the opportunity to be a mentor to one of our interns, and it was early on. It was very interesting. I think we caught our groove, as Sarah mentioned too. We really revamped our entire internship to kind of facilitate it being online. In a lot of ways, in my opinion, it created a little bit more touch points than maybe previously, when, you know, people are getting caught up in what they're doing day to day. Whereas because it was online, we built in some intentional touch points throughout the week with various levels and various people throughout the firm. So some of the feedback that we received from those summer interns is that they felt like they maybe met more people than they maybe would have otherwise. It was a challenge at times to kind of come up with unique ideas to kind of get bigger groups together, like this type of setting. The smaller groups, we found that it was quite a bit easier to have good conversations. In these big groups, you feel like you're talking out to an open space, whereas those smaller groups, it's a little bit easier to interact. But yeah, the big thing that I would say from a recruiting standpoint, everything has been accelerated via this virtual. I think we're talking to students earlier and earlier. I've already had some interviews. I've already talked to students just from the fact that everything's online now. You can kind of go apply, and instead of that initial meet that usually happened at either an event like this or an event, you know, career fair, we've already had those touch points to maybe be a 10-minute conversation or a 10-minute Zoom call. So I would say things are going really quickly would be my biggest takeaway thus far.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thanks, Jason. So, I mean, it's easy to get caught up in kind of what does this specific recruiting cycle look like? How do we handle the virtual and all that stuff? Which you guys had good advice on that. But just broader or kind of bigger picture, any kind of insights for the students on what you all, and I'm specifically thinking kind of the public accounting recruiting cycle, but Andy and Corey, stick with me. We'll hear your sides of the story too here shortly. But anything that you want to mention that you're really looking for in candidates beyond the you know, knowing the technical accounting, right? Beyond the debits and credits, what makes a candidate, outside of kind of navigating the virtual world, what makes a candidate stick out to you all? Maybe Sarah, if you wouldn't mind going first with some thoughts.
Yeah, sure. I think, you know, the first thing is that ability to just have a very open dialogue and a free-flowing conversation. I think that's really important just in the way that we're set up in public accounting as client service. So I always think when I'm having a conversation with someone, will I be comfortable bringing this person to a client and having them, go out and have a conversation and ask someone about an accounting question that they may have, or, just anything that's kind of part of the job. And so I think, that's something that's very important to us as we're kind of looking through it. And that's definitely a question we always ask ourselves as we're kind of sitting back, thinking about who to make offers to and so forth. But I also think having that kind of desire and that ability to, just like self-motivate and, be willing to take on any task. And, I think you can start to sense that when you're talking to people just about their jobs and in the past, or even if you don't have a lot of experience yet, maybe you're sporting, or anything that you're involved in with different types of organizations. I think sometimes people think, oh gosh, I didn't have another internship somewhere or another, bit of experience, but it's just as important to show how, you were able to multitask and do a lot of different things during your college career, and you were playing a sport and you were working a part-time job. So talk about all those things and show how you have some of those leadership qualities that we're all looking for.
Yeah, thanks. Sarah, makes total sense. Kim, anything to add there?
No, I think all of those qualities is definitely important. And so we always say, like teamwork, hard work, positive attitude. We can coach up a lot of other things and teach you a lot of things, not being afraid to ask questions. And I think one of the things that really solidifies, and Sarah touched on this, is like seeing that someone would be a good fit. And sometimes that also means just in terms of like firm size and the type of, if you've given some thought to like the type of clients you want to work on. Corey mentioned Sarbanes-Oxley, and like as Bean Garter, we're working with local closely held companies. We don't do any work for any public entities. So our clients are in the local area, and you're not going to be traveling overnight. You're going to be in an advisory role. You're going to see jobs from front to back. It's just a very different type of work. So when students have had a little bit of exposure and given some thought to the type of firm that they want to be working at, and they've decided, that a local option is the best fit for them, then that is meaningful to us.
Yeah, and I was going to follow up, but I think you kind of answered it there, Kim. But so you would obviously look favorably, but want the student, the candidate, to come in kind of knowing what it is your firm offers, and kind of having already reconciled how they fit into your offering, what they like about your offering, instead of coming in talking about all the public companies they want to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I understand that students can't know things that aren't publicly available, but having reviewed the websites and, whether it's a Glassdoor or whatever options that they have available to them to learn about different firms, and then, even talking to other students that have done internships elsewhere and just getting a feel for what their work experience has been and how that aligns with what they themselves are looking for.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Kim. Jason, wondered, could you kind of give a thought on how should students approach the audit versus tax decision, particularly if they're just looking for an internship and maybe haven't had auditing or any tax courses yet, or all the tax courses yet? Do they have to have a decision? What should they do? How should they answer that question if you ask them?
Yeah, that's always a hot question, I feel like. And it kind of comes back to what Kim said a little bit. It's really where are you doing your internship is really sometimes pushes you kind of whether you're going to be just an audit intern or just a tax intern. At Planned Moran, we're fortunate where we give our interns an opportunity to kind of experience both. But we also acknowledge that there's some struggles with that, and that's not necessarily the easiest way for every size firm to kind of do it that way. So one thing I would say, taking a step back from that question, is really do your homework on where you're applying. If you're applying at a Big Four, you're likely going to be audit or tax, and they're pretty open and upfront that it's audit or tax. Those middle market firms often have a little bit of a shared experience, and then all the way down to the smaller firms as well are more often than not, you're probably doing a little bit of both. So having that awareness, I think, is important as you're kind of approaching that question. From my perspective, as I went through this process, I had no idea. I didn't have an audit or a tax class prior to kind of going out to the camp, to the schools events, and kind of fell into tax by, trying it first. I tried to have an audit opportunity and had a tax opportunity and liked tax a little bit better. So I would say those students that really know, hey, I want to be an auditor, I want to be a tax person, own that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you're somewhere in the middle where you're on the fence, I think knowing kind of where you're applying and even asking that question, well, what's the difference, or how, is there an opportunity to get an opportunity for both, I think is definitely not an inappropriate question to ask, not only the HR people or the accounting folks that you're going to meet out at the events.
No, that makes sense. Sarah, how about that kind of Big Four, if there's that, clear line tax or audit, can somebody come to you and answer that question and say, I don't know?
Yeah, I think it's if they don't know, we certainly ask a lot of questions, I think, during the process, and sometimes we just want to make sure we're obviously filling that best fit for them too. We want you to be happy with the internship that you're kind of looking for. I think, certainly, like everyone said, it's good to have some thought or leaning one way or another, and maybe asking those questions. I've talked with a lot of students over the years that they just don't know. And I think, it is hard. I kind of knew right away because I didn't care for my tax classes as much. So that for me was kind of a dead giveaway. But there's others that say, well, I haven't taken an audit class. Can you tell me, a little bit about what that entails? And so it's more so, tax, I always say, is very specific. And I still, unfortunately, get to do some tax work. Not always my favorite, but I still do it, right? And I think you end up kind of getting into both. But, there are aspects of audit that you're learning the whole business, and you're getting to see multiple companies in a day, or a week, and whatever. You might be able to, bounce around a little bit. So I think sometimes we just kind of talk through those questions, and I never want to really just force a resume in one pile, tax versus audit, without, someone really, really saying that. And sometimes it comes out during an interview too. You start to see people become really passionate about something, and will say, well, gosh, you kind of seem like you're leaning more towards tax based on this conversation. So it's not unheard of, but certainly a lot easier to help place you in something that's going to be the best fit if you do kind of have, that figured out at the start.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And just to clarify, especially for the Aquinas students on here, Professor Cantley was not your tax professor that taught these classes that you didn't like.
No, I actually loved my tax professor, actually.
It was
Cindy,
actually the material.
I still talk to her to this day, and she understands.
I do as well. Yeah, no, it's funny how she can keep connections.
Yep.
All right, thanks for all of that. Maybe we shift gears a little bit, just so we can kind of reflect a little bit of the non-public accounting view. So Andy, with your background, starting clearly in public with accounting, but then moving over to finance, could you just give a little bit more of your take on if somebody was looking to do something similar, an accounting/finance degree, a student who's really interested in that outside of pure accounting, how would you suggest they go about starting their career? Kind of follow your path, or maybe something different?
Yeah, it's hard to say because I did go through the public accounting route, and even though I'm not in that today, like I wouldn't have traded that experience for anything. I think like one of the biggest things that I was able to take away from that and apply to my current job is just like kind of like what Calvin taught me. It's just like learning how to learning how to identify the problem and work to find a solution, because it's not always clear. You're not always just given a straightforward answer. You're not always told what to do. Sometimes you just got to figure it out. I had, at EY, I was just thrown into situations that I didn't feel like I was ready for. And I had to kind of learn to get through it and learn to find the right answer. So while that was stressful, I think that experience was really important, and that's part of the reason I wouldn't trade my accounting experience, and it also helped with people skills. So I was in audit for a number of years. I had a lot of client interaction then on the tax side, I didn't have that much client interaction, but I had to deal with some difficult clients, which was also a great experience, learning how to, manage emotions when I'm frustrated or when someone is taking out their frustration on me. That's something that I'll take with me wherever I go. And then like time management, efficiency, like you have a lot of work on your plate. You have to learn to manage your time block. You have to learn to balance a lot of projects and be more efficient with your time. So yeah, I mean, I even though I love what I'm doing now, and yeah, it would be nice to have 10 years of experience doing what I'm doing now, I still would have preferred the public accounting route, and I don't in any way regret going that way. And yeah, honestly, I probably would still recommend that to others. There's so many valuable experiences you get from working in a professional setting like that yeah, I don't think you can really get anywhere else.
Yeah, no, thanks, Andy. Corey, maybe a similar question, right? You started in public as well. Then obviously had a lot of great roles, a lot of great companies in industry. Thinking back on your career, or maybe even just thinking to who you hire in on your teams now that you're in industry and a leader, what do you look for in an accounting finance professional that is you're hiring into industry or for your own career? What are you looking for that start in public accounting, or are there different paths that you see?
I think there's lots of different paths, and I think Kim kind of focused on. I've heard this through a bunch of different folks. Whether it's being introspective and knowing how to learn. Andy just hit on this too. What I'm looking for is someone who doesn't have 1 year of experience 3 times over. They have 3 years experience, meaning they grew. And the analogy I usually use with my team is who in their pocket has an iPhone 3 and no one raises their hand. And the point I make to them is if you do not evolve, you will become an iPhone 3, and no one has an iPhone 3 in their pockets. And the equivalency will happen in the workforce. So if you do not grow, like you literally don't earn your raise if your output doesn't match that. So how do you become faster, stronger, and smarter at whatever you choose to do? So whether you choose to start in public accounting or you choose to start in industry, I think a lot of the questions that were being addressed earlier, like what size firm, what locations, those are all kind of things that if you know the answer, awesome, because then it gives you kind of a narrow focus. If you don't know the answer, that's okay too, because it's an internship and you can go do anything for like a year or 9 months or 3 months, right? So go experiment, go learn, go fail. And it's only truly a failure if you don't learn anything from it, if you don't grow from it, if you don't become bigger, faster, and stronger from the mistakes. Maybe learning what you don't like, I would argue, is just as valuable as you start at that beginning of your career. But like maybe Brad, more specifically to your question, what I'm looking for is folks right out of college, the ability to demonstrate that you can learn. I mean, I've seen lots of different folks think about or come across as, I just got good grades, I've done everything well, I should know everything. Well, everything there is to know about accounting, and literally you don't know where the bathroom is. Right? So just kind of, if you put it in context, we know you don't know. You don't necessarily know that you don't know, but like we know you don't know. So ask. There's nothing more frustrating than the person kind of on the other side of that question that you're asking, do you understand? And they're telling you yes, and it's clear that you don't. So take every moment to learn, take every experience to learn, go do the stuff no one else wants to do and learn from it. And then figure out how to apply what you learned to something else, whether it's in your personal life or at work. But as long as you're growing, and I don't mean growth necessarily as I got a new title. I just mean that you've picked up something, and that means tomorrow you can do something a little bit easier, a little bit better, and add more value. And value comes in lots of different ways. Andy hit on efficiency. So like every time you get a little bit faster, that gives you capability to do other stuff. And maybe that other stuff is just go home sooner to do whatever you love to do, whether it's to play with your kids or go have a beer with your buds, right? Like, doesn't matter, right? You can invest that in work, you can invest that in learning. So I think it's about like that ability to just grow and develop and learn. And as far as, whether you start off in industry or you start off in public accounting, I've had this debate with multiple public accountants, one that lives downstairs here in my house. She believes industry or CPAs is the way to go, start in public accounting. I'm kind of I think if you work hard and you're good, you will figure it out. So I say all that to say there's no right answer for all of you. There is an answer for each of you, and it's whatever you choose. And that's really interesting because the only definition of success that matters for any of you is your own. So, and that definition will evolve. What you want to be when you grow up today is like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Some days I want my boss's job, some days I don't. And, it just depends. So we're all kind of figuring it out. So I think, take the time to explore. I think the one point I do want to hit on is Kim's point about preparation. I can't tell you the number of times I've been in a career fair when I used to work at Whirlpool and someone would say, you guys make hot tubs. And I'm like, there's a sign with appliances behind me. You have a computer in your hand. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a name tag, right? Like there are so many tools where you could be impressive by a little bit on your resume. Put in the objective statement. I want a tax internship at XYZ because blah, blah, blah. You know what? You're going to wow Kim if you said, hey, I want exactly what you're offering. And you addressed it to her, right? By the way, she knows and you know that you got 7 of those in your book, but she's still going to be impressed that you took the time to do that because you know how many other people did? 1, right? You will be the 1 or 2 people at the career fair who will show up with a level of preparation that will differentiate you. And you're all going, is that really going to matter? It matters because you're the only one. And you're trying to be the special loaf of bread at the loaf of bread aisle in Myers, right? Like, why is someone going to pick you? So you have to look for the ways to differentiate yourselves. And frequently, they're way simpler than we think they are. So I'm going to quit rambling again.
No, that was helpful. So we're about out of time for the panel. So actually what we're going to do for student questions, we'll get into it in the small groups, probably a better spot even to ask questions, but I did want to maybe one more for the group and I'll just kind of throw it out whoever wants to. Is there anything you can share from back in your into college career when you were going through the recruiting process that that you look back on and say, yeah, I did this right, exactly right. This kind of helped me get to where I was. And maybe something you're willing to admit, I didn't do this so well. I kind of screwed this one up. I got over it, but I learned from that, learned a lesson there. So anyone want to share either one of those? If you can remember back in the days when you were in these students' seats?
Yeah, I can start. I think Corey touched on it a little bit. I think it's an important point in my mind. As much as we're evaluating you guys and really, hey, are you a good fit for our firm, et cetera, you should be evaluating us in the same regard. Pay attention to who you met at the career fair, pay attention to who you're interviewing with, pay attention to what their experiences are at the firms or the places, the businesses. Because it's as important for you. At the end of the day, it's your career. It's not, I can help you along the way on your path, but at the end of the day, it's your career. And the only person that's going to own that is you. So I think that's one thing that if you haven't figured that piece out yet, is really own your career. And I think the first step is really evaluating, as much as we're evaluating you, where you want to be. In terms of things I think that I wish I would have known a little bit more, I think I would have broadened my horizon a little bit more. I think I focused in on my, 5 or 6 firms / companies and kind of, I would say, almost shut my eyes on the rest of them. I think that was a mistake, especially as I've gotten into my career. Can't tell you how many times you run into somebody, maybe a prospect or even a client down the road of folks that maybe, oh, sorry, XYZ company, I wasn't interested in your company now. And, now you're trying to get their business as a client. So I think Corey mentioned this earlier, and I really think it's true. Every day is an interview. You don't know who you're going to run into, out having drinks with your friends or whatever. And those connections oftentimes can lead to successes or as Corey mentioned, some failures.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
Anyone else? A lesson learned? Good or bad?
I would just
Tim.
say to take advantage of the career services if you have opportunities to do mock interviews. I came up at a time, where I just wasn't familiar enough with what the services were that my college offered. And when we talk about doing the career fairs live, I always tell people, like, it can be nerve-wracking. And if you feel like you're getting overwhelmed or nerves are getting the best of you, like, walk out of the room and regroup and come back in. Don't bail on it, And I would say with these, because it's virtual and you're going to schedule, I personally would recommend, not blocking yourself in for the entire period of time back to back to back. I would maybe schedule, 2 or 3 or 4 sessions, and then give yourself a 10-minute mark as busy, or, don't sign up for something and go with that type of flow, because, you don't want to have a situation where maybe nerves are getting, or fatigue's getting the best of you, and you're not able to put your best self forward because you just haven't had a break between all the people that you're going to be meeting.
All right, thanks, Kim. All right, final thoughts before we break into small groups? All right, Bridget, I think it's over to you to, everybody's going to be put in the group, so just hold tight for a minute or so, depending on how fast you can do this, and then we'll regroup.
All right, you should be getting a message to join a room. Oh, okay. Charlize and Esmeralda, it looks, oh, okay, good. You found it on the phone. Okay. Charlize,
Yeah.
there's, oh,
Mine's
go
not
ahead.
coming up.
Let me see if I can send you there automatically.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Woo.
So I didn't realize that I could do that while it was going on.
Oh, okay.
So I pre-did all of that.
Oh gosh.
And all I had to do was press the button that said open all the rooms. Otherwise, that would have been like super stressful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, see, good. I passed the test,
Yes.
but like a ton of people left. Did you notice that?
Well, I saw like we had at most, I think 45,
There was like 47,
47. Okay.
and then it like went down to 37. So then I was like moving people.
Oh.
Okay, why isn't Justin? Hold on one second.
Mhm.
Okay. That's weird. Like some people said that they weren't assigned, so put them back in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, then as people were leaving, then like one group had 8 people and one group had only 5. So then I was like
Oh,
moving
yeah.
around. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. That's good. That would stress me out to the high heavens. So.
Oh, well, Dana knew like how much
Oh,
I
good.
was stressed about it, but it
Yeah.
was when I started playing around with it and realizing I could do it ahead of time, then I was like, oh, this is much better.
Yeah. That's-
Now, how long are we giving them to?
I thought we weren't gonna go more than 15, but like this event ends at 6, so
Oh, it ends at 6? Because Dana said 6:30.
on my calendar it was, let's see. Oh, it is 6:30.
Okay.
False alarm. So yeah, I think because we were like, should we give them 30 minutes? But we felt like that was way too long. So I think we settled on 15.
Okay. So I should bring them back.
At like 6:15 maybe?
Yeah, they've only been in there for 4.5 minutes now.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
6.
and that's probably just enough to like, hey, welcome. Then we'll get
Yeah.
going. So
Yeah.
yeah, want to at least get a few questions answered for them in their groups.
Yeah, and I don't know, I believe, right, that somebody communicated with those room hosts just to have like some guidelines or,
That's what I would assume.
okay,
I don't know though.
okay, well,
I think that's why we did 2 per room too, so that it was kind of like someone could bounce
Yeah.
back and forth or whatever. So
there was at least one host and then one of the
Yes.
panelists or
yes.
a professor in each one of them. So like I put Tarita in a room
Oh,
and I
good.
put
She'll love
Dana
that.
in a room. So
Okay.
Tarita is with David O'Brien, Esmeralda Ruiz, Jessica, Monica Molaski.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And Justin Larry, why hasn't he joined yet? Come on, Justin. Hey, but I don't have his cell phone number, but I'm gonna. No.
Who is
We
Justin again?
He, one of our students,
Oh, okay.
he's doing an internship with Plant Moran next summer, but
Ah,
so I can see that he's like assigned to the room, but he hasn't joined it yet. But he's
Oh,
not.
weird.
But he's not here.
Right. So that's weird.
He's lost in the hallway somewhere. I think he might have just left. I think he just
That's
left.
true. That might have happened.
Whatever. I don't know. We'll see. We'll get the report back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I've been drinking a bubbly, so I gotta use the restroom. I'll be right
Okay.
back.
Go for it. I'll be here and I won't know what to do if someone comes back, but be all good.
Okay. My husband is making dinner and it smells so good and I'm so hungry and I'm
I'm
like,
so hungry right now too.
bring me some tater tots. They're done.
I know. I was like, my husband's on his way home. And I'm like, can you start dinner when you get here?
Ugh. So, are you in the office at all?
I am not. I'm the only one not.
The only one not.
Yeah.
Was that the short straw or the long straw?
Well, I'm due any day with a little boy.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
I
Wow.
forgot you were not on that email. I think I just told Dana. So I'm going on maternity leave soon. And Tarita was kind enough to say, just work from home. Don't come back for, a month. And, I
Yeah.
like it's a little risky because I don't know what the college students are
Yeah.
doing.
Kind
So
kind of congregating.
Yeah, I want to believe they're following the guidelines, but yeah, so otherwise, half our office is there and half works virtual, and then we like have
Right.
certain days, but I'm just strictly remote, so.
Yeah, we did it so, well, Joe is there 2 days a week. But everyone else, well, Dana and I are 1 day. So my day's Monday.
Okay.
But then this week I told Joe I would take Friday for him since I didn't work on Monday. So
Nice.
but I've also switched it around so like our kids are doing virtual school.
Oh, okay. How old are your kids?
3rd and 5th grade.
Okay.
Josh Drake, where are you? I'm gonna put you in breakout room 1 then. Yeah, honey.
Do you want sloppy Joe separate or on your tater tots?
Oh, what's everyone else doing?
I'm having it separate.
With a bun?
Yeah. I'm gonna ask if we have buns to put them on.
Yeah, I like buns.
Oh, I'm gonna ask for a bun then.
Okay, I guess that's what I want too, with mustard, the spicy mustard.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Oh yeah.
Also, since we're just chatting about personal things, this recording, are we going up anywhere, or is it just for us?
So we did forget to pause the recording, so you'll hear a whole conversation between myself and my children about what we're having for dinner when you record it, so hopefully you can edit that out. Lauren and I were just chatting about stuff, and she said, so is this still recording? And I'm like, it sure is. We're having sloppy joes, just so everyone knows.
That's what makes life fun, Bridget. That's what makes life fun. We're all human, so and probably there's those of us among who haven't made dinner yet. So sloppy joes.
Well, I'm so hungry and I can smell it like wafting up from downstairs. So
I will be there soon.
how were the breakout rooms? Did everyone find them okay?
Good.
Great.
Thanks for coordinating.
Good. I guess I was hoping that this would go on for longer, but you know, if this is the way it is, so everything's winding up right now. Is that it?
Well, we could have a little bit of time for wrap up. What we thought might be helpful is maybe folks in breakout rooms could share some takeaways. I don't know if you want to start. Are there things that in your small groups you talked about that might be good for the group to know or to share?
No, for us it was great. We just sort of continued along the same lines as the panel. You know, kind of asking the professionals to, you know, kind of, in a sense, share their wisdoms, and that was good. Students were able to ask a few questions, day in the life kind of a thing. You know, that was great. So in other words, both in terms of adding on to the wisdoms that were shared in the first panel, and then also, you know, tell us about what the typical day is like on the job.
I think Paul ought to mention what he learned.
Thanks for the shout out, Professor.
Oh, Paul, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Professor. Well, my experience was really insightful. I learned that I just need to try to follow the process and try to learn from everything. I think, as Corey mentioned earlier, just try to take everything, even if you fail, try to learn something from it. The only way you really fail is if you don't learn. And Aquinas and Kelvin, they're gonna try to help you. I'm very blessed to go to this school and have met a lot of great people that can helped me along the way. I just need to take advantage of these opportunities, try to get myself out there and talk to people, and just get these experiences. And even if, you know, I'm not successful at first, just keep trying. So it was very insightful and valuable.
It's a great attitude, Paul. It's good to hear.
Thanks, Professor.
Bridget, do you have a question?
Yeah.
A call to Rika?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I always am so curious when folks talk about their firms and like, you know, it's about the culture and et cetera. And I think sometimes it's hard for students to really understand, well, like, what's the difference? Like, what is the difference between these two? Like, I get small versus big, right? So it would be like saying, well, what's the difference between Calvin and Aquinas? I mean, we're both small, we're both religiously based, but there's got to be some differences between the two. Otherwise, students wouldn't have chosen to go to one or the other. So maybe you could share, if you were a store, what would you be? It's a real creative question. You might need some time to think about it. Are you a small boutique store that offers, you know, quirky coffee mugs? Or, and I don't think it's fair if Corey says he's like a Best Buy. That would not be fair.
I was gonna say I was a Nike store, like the one in Michigan Ave in Chicago. Like everyone knows someone who's got some Nike swooshes on, right? Like I'm sitting in an Aeron chair or flagship chair. There's a pretty good chance that, yep, I'm looking at the head nod, that a bunch of folks on this call and the professionals are sitting in a Herman Miller product. So everyone knows someone who's got it. You might not be like that into the brand. We're about design. We try to have that design point of view permeate in everything we do. Brad, I'm talking to you because I hope you feel like the design element came through my 10K this quarter. So it's not a compliance document, it's a design document, right? Like, so
Whirlpool did have a really nice one that we looked at several times. Yeah, you started there nicely as well.
Yeah. So you know, to me, it's kind of, it can be fun, it can be loud. I wear my sneakers to work every day. I'm growing a Billy Goat beard. Maybe it's my COVID beard, but like I think I'm going to bring it because I bring it on to my audit committee meetings too. So like I'm a Nike store.
Yeah, no, I would say Plant Moran, we're like a Chick-fil-A. I think we're people-centered. But you go into Chick-fil-A and I think your first experience is, man, all these people are so nice. So
I'm a former PMMer and you nailed it. I'm talking to Jesse Richardson later this week and totally tell him he's the Chick-fil-A manager.
Jesse's great. I work with Jesse quite a bit. Yeah, so in my opinion, that I think we're very people-centered, very focused on the client experience, very focused on our people's experience. And I think that a lot of folks that hopefully meet us, I think that hopefully that's their first takeaway is, man, those people are really nice.
I like that. Great question, Bridget. So Dana, I don't know if we really coordinated the wrap up of this event. I don't know if we have more time, if you had more thoughts on where we're going or just kind of final remarks.
I know we went until 6:30, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time on here, but maybe we can just wrap up with all of the professionals that are on the this Zoom right now. Maybe if you had one sort of final thought or just sort of a takeaway, what you would want to make sure that as students are gearing up, not just for public accounting, but I really think, you know, to your point, and I know Corey, you talked about this too, but I think it was Jason who said it actually, but things are accelerating. And I think I see that across the board, like even in the corporate world, whereas maybe job postings would go through the fall semester, things are accelerating. So any takeaways or any kind of like final thoughts that maybe you might have like sage advice to share as they're heading into this recruiting season?
Dana, I'm going to jump in because I consider myself a professional.
All right, you are, yes.
Concentrate
A rough term.
Concentrate on the task in front of you. Don't spend too much time worrying about 6, 8, 12 months in the future. If you've got a task now, concentrate on that now. I'm done.
Yeah, no, my biggest takeaway would be yourself, especially in this virtual environment. I think at the end of the day, you're selling yourself to the firms and these companies. Is be a person. Don't get so bogged down in GPAs and classes I've taken, etc. As Kim mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff, we don't expect you to know much as you're kind of coming into it, but be a person, be yourself, and through that, share experiences that, connect to kind of the day-to-day.
Maybe adding on to Jason's point, this has created, the environments we are, created all sorts of challenges for all sorts of ways of life, like from the minute to the not so minute. And I think if you can illustrate how you adapted to some of these and turn the things that on the face would have been negative into positives, how have you turned them the selling points, how have you taken advantage of the circumstances? What are the moments where you just said, I'm making this awesome? Like for me, I haven't worn pants with belt loops in 6 months. Like that's amazing. So like, what's the positives that you get out of this environment? And like, how do you really kind of finding the good in all of it? And I mean the very little bits of good, and then celebrating that with people around you.
Jumping in, I think one of the things that I've kind of said to every single intern, I think Jason kind of touched on it too, is, GPA, it's important, right? It kind of gets you in the door in some places. I know at EY, especially when an intern started there, I kind of have said, you already proved you're smart, right? If you're here, you proved you're smart, you have the GPA to do it. And I think the biggest differentiator is that it comes down to, like, at the base level is, do you have a great attitude and do you show effort? Because the rest of that stuff, as far as the accounting goes, someone had said it earlier, we really don't expect you to know anything. I mean, when I interned and when I started as a staff, I didn't know anything. And there's still days 4 years in now that I still don't feel like I know anything. And that you're gonna feel that way throughout your entire career. So just showing ways that you have a great attitude, you're showing the effort, and then have the ability to get along with people. I think those are really big things that can set you apart.
Yeah, I'm entering year 7 and I still don't know anything. So don't be alarmed.
Like I said, a year ago, I didn't know where the bathrooms were.
No, I would echo kind of all those things of like, don't be above any tasks. Like as an intern, if you're going to get coffee, like be the best intern who gets coffee. Like you're getting paid to go get coffee, do it well, do it with a great attitude. Like people do notice that stuff, and like be kind to everyone. Like don't just perk up when the partner's in the room. Like the associates matter. Like those are the people you should try to get along with, because one, they're the people you're going to be working with day in and day out, but they're also the people the partner goes to and asks for a report on how is it working with this person? Do you want them to be on your team? So, treat everyone in that room equal. Like don't just go try to interview and talk to the partners. Like everyone in that room matters.
I said this on the breakout, but just to kind of repeat it, I think no matter what happens over the next 6-12 months, I think whether or not you get that internship that you absolutely want, I think any experience that you have between then and now is going to be valuable in your personal and professional development. So whatever internship you're given the opportunity, or you're not given an opportunity, just as hard as it is, try to look forward with optimism, because I think it will develop you, and you'll look back and see that these past 6-12 months have been crucial for your development.
I mean, if any of you were on Dana and my first Zoom call back in April, and now look at us. We're putting people in rooms. We're forgetting to hit record, but like we're learning. So, I mean, honestly, like if you can get your friends together and do a Zoom and like learn how to actually, we call it being a Zoom driver, that I think is going to be a thing. If you've not hosted a meeting before and put people in rooms and muted people and let people in, like it's kind of like being a producer of live news. So go and do that thing, and then you're going to have one more skill to put on your resume, because you can believe I'm putting this on my resume now. I feel very good about the breakout rooms.
Excellent. So thank you, everyone. And just to echo a couple things that were said earlier, be prepared, plan ahead, make sure manage that time, manage that schedule, go into Handshake like you need to, the extra focus on that this year. And certainly reach out to the resources you have at each school, right? The career services, your professors, they can help a lot. So don't be afraid to ask for help.
And between now and next Wednesday, please reach out to your Career Center for some support on whether mock interviews or just sort of tips on how to operate in a virtual career fair. Lauren, thank you for the offer of kind of doing practice on Friday. We'll circle back to you on that, but know that it doesn't just end next Wednesday, because the whole process continues. So make sure to keep connecting, as Professor Cantley said, focus on the here and now, and don't think too far ahead, focus on what you can do in the moment. So we really appreciate you being here in this moment. And yes, dinner time for Bridget, as you can see from her chat. So on that note, I hope you all have a wonderful Wednesday and appreciate all of you being here today. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for the gifts. Thank you all for helping us out. It's really good to get your perspective, not just ours from inside the schools.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lauren.